me tell y'all about the one time my uncle threw me through a cabinet because we had a little disagreement.
I'm just saying.
So picture it, St. Louis, 2010, maybe 11, maybe 9. I was somewhere between 18 and 20. Now, mind you, I don't completely hate my family. Completely. They're toxic and they're stuck in their way of thinking. And I knew at the time I was very different. I was becoming more gay by the day. As I hung around, as I found my people and started hanging around my people and realized my family and we weren't aligning with each other anymore. But I never had, up until this moment that I'm about to explain to y'all, any thoughts about leaving St. Louis because I'm very family oriented and I wanted to stay close to them. It made no sense for me to be away from them. And to this, so we're sitting at the table having a conversation. It is me, my uncle who is sitting directly across from me, my auntie, my uncle's wife who is sitting here, my mom, my uncle's sister, older sister, who is sitting here. My grandparents are off in the living room. We're having a conversation about hopes, dreams, and aspirations and all of those things. I don't know how it came up. I don't even know why it was a topic of conversation. Just that's because that's not something that I would talk to my uncle about. So I don't know what. Maybe I was trying to open up to him. Get shut down after this, but we weren't agreeing. And basically his thought process was people my age can't focus on anything and we need to pick something to focus on if we want to ever make it in the world, blah 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 blah. And I think what started it off is because I was telling them how much I wanted to do. I want to be a writer, I want to be an actor, I want to be a director. Of course, I ain't mentioned nothing about drag at this time, but those are all the things that I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a creative. And he kept telling me I needed to focus on one thing, which never made sense to me why he had such an opinion about it at the time, because he never took any interest in me before that moment. So why he was so passionate about it in the middle of this conversation confused me. I remember being very confused. To this day, I wish I could remember why we were even talking about it, and that might give me a little bit better context. But anyway, I digress. I started saying, you're not making any sense. And he's like, well, how am I not making any sense? And we're going back and forth. And he's getting mad, but I'm not noticing because I'm talking back to him. Sidebar. My uncle does not like people talking back to or disagreeing with him because everything he says is right and correct. It doesn't matter what it's about. It could be about a subject he's totally not knowledgeable in, like following your dreams. But no, he's right and correct. You shouldn't argue back with him. So I broke the cardinal rule right then by saying, you're not making any sense. You're wrong. So I'm telling him, hey, uncle, you're not making any sense. You're wrong. That's not how any of this goes. In retrospect, he might have been trying to convey something different. He might have been trying to convey, focus on writing first and then figure that out and then go into direction and then figure that out and then go into acting and figure that out. But that's me putting words into his mouth. That's actually me giving him a little bit more credit than he deserves because he's really not that smart. He's getting madder and he's getting visibly upset with me because I'm saying the things that you are saying to me does not make sense and they don't add up. That's just not how any of this works. And he said, well, you're just young and you don't know what you're talking about. You need to listen to somebody that's older than you. And I asked him a very valid question. Well, what would you know about following your dreams or anything of that nature when all you do is follow up behind granddad? Sidebar again, my granddad has worked concrete and stonework his whole life, and my uncle played football until he couldn't play football no more, and then he started doing concrete and stonework like my granddad does, and he wants to be the patriarch of the family like my granddad is. So yeah, I said, what do you know about following your dreams? All you do is follow up behind granddad. Both fists. And mind you, this is a really big dude. My uncle's about maybe 5'9", 5'10", at the time, very cocky, because mind you, he slings concrete, slams the table as hard as he can, and he starts yelling something at me, but I can't remember what he's yelling because I remember being focused on my auntie and my mom, because we all three of us went back like this, like, whoa, what's, like, we look at each other like, what's the problem? So now he's yelling at me, so I'm yelling back, like, what are you yelling about? Why are you yelling at me? What's your problem? I'm asking him. I broke another rule. You don't back talk an adult because what he said, everything he says is right. Mind you, I'm grown too, but I'm not gonna get too far into that. My auntie, who has been dealing with this man, only God knows how, for the last, at that time, I think 12 or 13 years, I'm guesstimating. She gently taps my arm and says, Hershey, just let it go, move on. And I'm confused why I'm being tapped, because I said, well, no, he's wrong. And that's when my mom taps me as well. She gets, just let it go, Hershey, let's just move on from it. I'm like, no, he ain't making no sense. Now, in retrospect, they saw what was coming. They didn't necessarily see what was coming, But my uncle is the type in the family. My uncle is the man in the family that is protected. It doesn't matter what he does wrong. It doesn't matter who he hits or who he abuses or how he treats people. We have to protect him. Why that is, I have context for that. I can't share it right now. That's a story for another day, for another story I won't tell in the future. But I do have the context exactly why he's treated that way. At this time, I don't know why he's being treated that way, because everybody's telling me to be quiet and I'm the calmest one at the table at the moment. He's literally yelling and damn near spitting at all three of us because I told him to go get a dream and less of the attitude with me. They telling me to let it go. I'm like, I'm not about to let it go. He not making any sense, girl. This stuff, I ain't saying it like this, but this is where my mind set is down. I'm not letting it go. Like, he ain't making no sense, girl. This sound dumb. Y'all know he sound dumb, right? Am I the only one to hear he sound dumb? Everybody, like, what he talking about? So he's mad now. He jumps up from the table, comes around to the table. I have no fight or flight instincts at this time. So I did not realize this man standing over me was a threat. But I had no reason to think that my uncle would do anything to me in this moment, because we both grown men, or at least in my mind, we're both grown men. We talking. He's standing over me. I look up at him and he said, let's go outside. Go outside with me for a second. I said, I don't want to go outside with you. Just like that. I don't want to go outside with you. I blink. I open my eyes. I'm in the air. I blink. I open my eyes. I'm in the cabinet looking at the cookies. Cookies looking at me. I'm looking right back at them. They were Oreos. Not the double stuff, because my grandma had something against double stuff. I don't know what it was. Maybe too much sugar, but they're cookies. But anyway, I remember being dazed. And I look up at the sink. And my granddad and my mom are hemming my uncle up. And he's kind of hitting one of these like, whoa, okay, yeah, I got it. But they hemming him up. My granddad asked him, what is your problem? Like, yelling at him. My mama cussing him out like, not myself, what the fuck is your problem? I remember my auntie like slowly trying to help me to my feet because I'm a little dazed. And my grandma, bless her heart, is running up and down the kitchen going, oh, Lord Jesus, what can happen now, Lord? Have mercy, Father, blah, blah, blah. The next thing I remember, I don't know how I ended up on top of her, but my grandma is like rocking me back and forth in her lap, in her chair, like saying, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. At this time, it hasn't. I'm collecting my thoughts because I'm like, what just happened? I didn't realize I had gotten thrown across the kitchen. That's how fast it happened. What happened next is what usually happens in my family when it comes to major conflict to this day with them, not with me, because I moved 2,000 miles away. Something big happens, and then the next day, everybody just act like the big thing didn't happen. So I'm visiting with my grandparents again, and I didn't think to bring it up. They brought it up. It was my grandma first that went, so we forgive our uncle, don't we? I'm like, huh? She said, yesterday happened, but you got to forgive people. You got to move on. We forgive our uncle, don't we? And I remember being uneasy, but in my mind, I'm like, I guess I'm young. So I'm like, I get, maybe, I don't know how I feel right now. Well, we forgive him. We forgive him. I didn't know it now until thinking back on everything that happened, that this was the moment where I was like, I got to get away from these people. This is strange. This is insane. Do we forgive him? No, as a matter of fact, I don't. That was the day I decided to leave. That was that moment when I was not really asked, not really forced either, but encouraged, if you will, to forgive him. And after that, I just saw everybody interacting with him, including myself. I think I'm kind of guilty of that too, but I kind of went along with what the family did. Move on like nothing happened. I think that hurt my feelings because, again, he is never held accountable to this day for the things he does or how he treats people. And as a matter of fact, he has a son that has been up there ripping and running and acting a fool. But I'm not going to get too far to him. Actually, that son as well is mad at certain family members in our family, probably me included. I probably could have been a better big cousin to him. He also was crying out for help because his daddy was abusive to him, not kind, and nobody listened. And I really wish I could go back and restore that but again, that's a video for another day. I don't want to get too far into it. Listen, but the saga with that particular man doesn't end there. So part 2 might be coming soon.
I'm just saying.